Well, I've got to tell you, today I put myself in the seat of all of the guests on that One Lyric podcast who have struggled to come up with one lyric because I struggled to come up with one answer to these 11 life questions. I did go back, especially for the first question, and listen back to a couple of different songs because I wanted to uh, not have my preconceived perception or conception of a song without really having some basis for it. So I did a little bit of research by listening to a couple of these songs and had a little lightning round in my office here. So
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Listing Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and joining me again, because it is Ted Canova week here on Set Listing Bruce, Ted is joining me again. Ted, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, but next week's going to really be a bummer that it's
Yes,
not Ted Canova week.
right. I joked about I had Betsy Hodges, who was the mayor of Minneapolis, and then I had Chris, who was the Minneapolis St. Paul, and I called it Mayor Week. So yeah, Ted was on the podcast. I'll pull the curtain back a little bit. A couple weeks ago, we recorded, and we had such a great time. I said, "Hey, do you want to come back?" And he said, "Yes." And Ted was nice enough to ask me to be on his podcast. So we're going to sandwich this in. As you're listening to this, if you go to Ted's podcast yesterday, you will hear my episode. And why don't you tell them all your podcast?
Sure. And this may sound like a Ted Canova week, but it's going to be the Jesse Jackson sandwich in the
Yes, it
middle of
is.
Ted Canova week.
Right.
So I started a podcast called That One Lyric, and I'm asking fans, starting with Springsteen fans, to choose that one lyric and tell me the meaning, importance of that lyric to their life. And Jesse, as I said in the other episode, before I even launched, there were a dozen fans from all over the world who had been emailing me and wanted to be on it. So I have, by the time this is airing, there'll probably be about 8 episodes out and 10 or 12 already recorded, waiting for me to get to produce them. It'd be a daily podcast, Jesse, if I didn't have a day job, but I have a day job.
Well,
So I post them every Wednesday.
mhm.
And they're short, they're under 15 minutes, and it is a great variety. And every single person who struggles with choosing one lyric of a Springsteen song also walks away from each episode with a second and sometimes third interpretation that they never thought of that song just by us airing it out. It's really, really fascinating.
It has been, and I've enjoyed every episode. I am, I, and I'm enough of an egotist to really appreciate that I'm keeping track of the subset of guests that you've had that I've had as guests, and I am adding to either your joy or your stress because. And I promised that I was going to do this. If I finish talking to someone, I will, at the end of the conversation, say, and oh, by the way, there's a new Springsteen podcast. And well, oh, what is it? And I tell them, and I'm like, so just want to let you know, I'm going to email your email address, copying to introduce you to. And so I appreciate it. And
Well, thank you, Jesse. Thank you so much for doing that. You're a great, great supporter, and I consider a colleague on
yeah,
podcasting. But I've got to tell you, it's hard for me to interview people who you haven't interviewed since you have over 600 episodes in the last 5 years.
I was very happy. I would love to have Tom Hanks on the show. I would love to have, Kevin Bacon. I would love to have Colin Hanks. There are people that I would love to have and talk about their fandom. And you were making that joke and you mentioned the Philly Elvis, and I was so thrilled because I know Nick has been on the show a couple of times, and I immediately, hey Nick, you'll blow this guy's mind if you reach out to him. And so I'm so glad that you guys are going to be able to talk.
Oh, yes. We did record the other night, Sunday night, and I gushed all over myself. It was disgusting, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, he is just truly a great guy. And I find that um, as we talked a little bit on our last episode, I think that the Springsteen fandom um, overall are really good, interesting people, and they have a good heart, and so that way there are people you like spending time with, whether it's an hour episode like I do, or even just the 15 minutes and talking about that one lyric. You enjoy spending time with them.
I so much so do. And to tell you the truth, think about it. It's been 5 years since I've seen Bruce and the E Street Band in Rome at the River Tour. 5 years. So for us to provide these podcasts where Springsteen fans not only listen to E Street Radio, but can find kind of some PS, I love you programming out there and take part and share it and debate it. I got a message today that, it's fighting words. I said it's Mary's dress waving instead of swaying, and it's 50-50.
I saw that. Yes.
So yes, the dress does sway, I think, in Hyde Park, but I do think the liner note says that the dress waves. So I don't know.
Yes, it is. And that's why, I had the t-shirt printed up that says the question isn't whether the dress sways or waves, it's does she get in the car?
Yeah, that's a great question.
So yes, it is. All right. So let me give a little background, and I wanted Ted to catch up and kind of talk about it, but also the sports station here in Dallas used to do biggest band coming to town every week, and it gave them excuse to talk about musical acts coming to Dallas, Fort Worth, and then they would list them all, and then they would debate and vote, okay, what's the biggest act coming this week? And they would go around the table with the host and the behind the scenes, like the producer and the news guy and things like that. Well, when things stopped happening, they're like, okay, we can't do this anymore. They ended up doing bands of your life, and they came up with 11 questions, and band that you hate, band that you love, band that made you fall in love with music. But the kicker was you could only use one band once. And my son and I were talking, and he said, that's a good concept, but Dad, you should twist that for Bruce. You should do Bruce only. You should figure out. And so what I did is I took their 11 questions and I made it the songs of your life. So there are 11 questions. I gave them to Ted in advance. And so his joy is he gets to answer these, but you can only use one Springsteen song at a time, which is tough because you could almost make the argument any positive question, you could pick Thunder Road for any of them, you know? So do you want to give me any general thoughts about how you pick these? Did you just immediately know, or how much deliberation did you do, Ted?
Well, I've got to tell you, today I put myself in the seat of all of the guests on That One Lyric podcast who have struggled to come up with one lyric, because I struggled to come up with one answer to these 11 life questions. I did go back, especially for the first question, and listen back to a couple of different songs because I wanted to, not have my preconceived perception or conception of a song without really having some basis for it. So I did a little bit of research by listening to a couple of these songs and had a little lightning round in my office here. So
Okay, very nice. Well, we always start kind of with a negative, but that says, what's a song you hate, or in parentheses, you don't get, in case you don't want to, say something, there is a Springsteen song that you use the H word about?
Well, it's a great question, right? Because I'm trying not to use the word hate in my life in general.
Right.
And if I could roll up to the answer, that would help me kind of at least give you a little of the choreography of how I got there, right? So, waiting on a sunny day, how can I hate that when it brings so much joy to people? And when my friend Anne Marie's daughter, Savvy, actually was up on stage on Bruce's shoulder, fist pumping to Waiting on a Sunny Day. So, I can't hate that. Born in the USA, we are conflicted with this song. I'm not going to hate it because I've been in Italy with 80,000 fans who just went absolutely bonkers for it. Uh, Ramrod in Darlington County, I'm just not a NASCAR kind of guy. And when those songs come up and everyone goes crazy, I almost think the songs I don't like are the ones that, to me, I don't get why everybody's going crazy for them. But I get it. Ramrod, Darlington County, you're
Sure.
in some honky tonk bar and all fun. But I did listen to this last one that I think is the song that I dislike the most. And it is There Goes My Miracle.
Okay.
All right. And some of it is that, it almost seems like Bruce is doing this operatic kind of broad, big voice. And I don't know. I just either don't get it, don't appreciate it, but I don't think he plays it too often live. So perhaps there's something to that.
Okay. Very good. Um, what is a song you think is overrated?
This one I will go to Born in the USA.
Okay.
And probably because it is the song and the album that brought Bruce into such a mainstream place,
Right.
right? It really jettisoned him into more of the mainstream. And when our favorite people go mainstream, we kind of don't always love it, right? It's like, oh, really? You guys love it, and you don't get why you don't love the first two albums. And
Right.
that period of Bruce with the muscle shirt and the headband, that just seemed to be either jingoistic or just MTV playing to that kind of crowd. So I say it's overrated because of how highly rated so many people make it, especially live.
Okay. I get that. All right. So now we're done. That's all the negative questions. We're
Whew.
now song that is underappreciated.
All right, I'm going to roll into this one. I think Thundercrack is greatly underappreciated, but not the most underappreciated. I loved I Want to Marry You in the River Tour with Bruce
Hmm.
doing the prelude and then the maracas. And I've got to tell you, opening night in Pittsburgh, I don't know if there was a better version of it where the band, they just had so much fire because they hadn't toured in 18 months or so ever. And when Bruce just goes, it's like, hit it. And he just,
Hmm.
boom. And the maracas stop and he goes into it. It is such a beautiful, powerful song. But I think the song that's underappreciated, and this is what I went back to tonight. I posted yesterday, I went for a walk after work. And in the post, I wrote that this walk is my beautiful reward. And I think My Beautiful Reward, it is such a beautiful, beautiful song. And I don't know if I've ever seen him perform it live. And I don't really hear a lot of people talk about it, but it is so tender. It's so beautiful.
Oh, good. That's a great choice. All right. Song that you love.
So we can't do things twice.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the
All
frustration,
right.
right? Yes.
So I'm saving Tougher Than the Rest. If I Should Fall Behind is a runner up in a couple of categories. So the song I love, I just have to put it in this category, Land of Hope and Dreams,
Yes.
period.
Hmm. Yeah. Great choice. Great choice.
Not an original, obviously,
No,
but
no. And I don't know if you've heard, but like the song I didn't get was Swallowed Up in the Belly of the Whale. I went something pretty good. But the song that gave me a lot of my fandom, the song that I think is overrated is
yes.
Jungle Land.
Wow,
I know,
blasphemy.
I know
Holy
exactly, right?
cow.
It is just because it doesn't speak to me. I understand its greatness, but when people talk about that, song that I think is underappreciated was Better Days, and that's appropriate considering what we're going to record in a few, as we talked about in a timey-wimey way that we haven't recorded yet will have already been published.
Yes.
And then I went with Thunder Road for Song I Love.
Well,
I mean, yeah, you can't go wrong with that choice, right? And
yeah.
the question is, Thunder Road could be answered in so many other things. All right, song you can listen to over and over again.
So I really rolled this one up, and you're going to have to be patient with me.
No, please.
But of course, Land of Hope and Dreams. I drive from New York to Boston frequently. And when that comes on live, I could play it 13 times at 9 minutes each and, do the math. And, I'm in Rhode Island by the time
Sure.
the 10th time is on. I've come to really appreciate Racing in the Street and the mesmerizing ending of it that goes on. And I actually think Bruce and the USA Tribute Band is even more mesmerizing than the E Street Band. That may sound crazy, but they stick with that final 2 minutes longer than the E Street Band sticks with it. And
Mm-hmm.
it just, it's like puts me in a trance. People actually tap me on the shoulder with my eyes closed and saying, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
The Promised Land, I can listen to over and over again. Tougher Than the Rest, again. But, I go to I've never paid money online for a song. I always buy CDs or albums. I just figure I'm either old school or I just figure that the artist is getting more of my money if I'm buying a CD rather than
Right.
a download, right? But I did last one to this dance of a Spotify playlist, and I made one playlist, and it's Bruce love songs.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to this again. This is the song I can listen to over and over and over. If I Should Fall Behind, I've got Bruce and Linda Ronstadt. The Price You Pay, I have Bruce and Emmylou Harris. But Tougher Than the Rest with Bruce, Everything But the Girl, and I hope I'm not butchering the name, Chimera Obscura.
Mm-hmm.
I think Tougher Than the Rest I can listen to over and over and over and just never get sick of it.
So that was my choice of that song as
Hey,
well.
Jesse,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah. For that
Why?
very
Tell me
reason.
why.
For the very reasons you mentioned. I love Bruce's version, but there are so many good cover versions of that song, and people that just it is such a powerful love song. I also love that a couple people have used um, that that are fighting cancer, and the idea that we are tougher than the rest. I can stand it. So it's a song not only romance, but could be about friendship. And it's just it it's as close to as a country song he's written, and it is done on the radio. Country music is played on the radio. I just think it's a great song. That Atlantic City is another one I really like a lot of cover versions of, but by far I think I have I have not heard a bad cover version of Tougher Than the Rest.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, it's beautiful. I agree.
And, knowing Bruce's journey through marriages and with
Yes.
Patty, and again, I go back to this Rome concert in 2016. There's a point, Jesse, and I may have mentioned it on the other podcast we did, where Bruce just gives a head nod
Mhm.
and Patty comes to his microphone and they do a duet. And then Patty goes back to her microphone. And to me, it's like, there's so much in that head nod.
Well, and we did talk about this in the previous, and I was tempted to make that, and it would make my if I was doing a top 10 Springsteen lyrics. If I Fall Behind, I think is his best song about marriage, but I do think that the commitment the singer makes is it's a long, thin
Yeah.
rhyme, and I'll
Yeah.
walk it for you every time
Yeah.
is a truly commitment because this past June, Lynn and I hit 35 years of marriage.
Oh,
And I
beautiful,
do
Jesse.
know that it's a long road, and it is. So yeah, absolutely great song.
And
Great
it's a
song.
thin, thin line,
It is. It absolutely
right?
is. All right. Song that made you fall in love with Bruce.
Well, I was 14 when Born to Run came out. And what was I doing at 14? I was probably listening to WABC, and they would do songs back to back, and I'm listening to what Elton John and Kiki D and Don't Go Breaking My Heart,
I love that
and
song. It makes me smile
oh,
every time I hear it.
geez, doesn't it?
It does.
So I know. I mean, it's not even a guilty pleasure. It is such a
Yeah,
great song.
it is.
But I do think Born to Run, it's so hard to put myself back in the shoes of this 14-year-old falling in love with Bruce, because I loved Boston and Jackson Brown, and because I was on Long Island, Billy Joel was big. So you either like Billy Joel or Springsteen. And I, when Billy Joel got poppy in the late 70s or early 80s, I
Mhm.
totally was into Springsteen. So I don't know. I wish, one of my great wishes is going back in time. What would it have been like? Because I ask everybody on my podcast that one lyric, what was your first entry into the music of Bruce Springsteen? And they know,
Yeah.
they could tell me 7, 15, this, that, this, the other. I don't remember my first entry into the music of Bruce Springsteen.
I have a
And
vague memory, not as strong as some of the people, and I am that's one of the joys of doing this podcast, honestly, Ted, is that sometimes, I ask the question, what about him spoke to you? What about his music? And some people can explain in really articulate, explicit, detailed ways, and others can't, and it's interesting.
well, it's
Yeah.
almost like it gets in our DNA, right?
Yes.
Because it's in our bones, as Bruce sings
Yes.
about, right?
Right.
And I was fortunate at 19 to be at one of those Nassau Coliseum concerts, not New Year's Eve, but
Yeah.
I think he might have done 3 nights. I even think there was an intermission in the damn show, if you
Right.
think about it. And that has to be in my bones, that concert, without me really being able to remember much other than Santa Claus is Coming to Town,
Yeah.
because it was right after Christmas.
Well, I remember, um, and we talked about this. Um, the River and Hungry Heart was my first kind of awareness of him, but I remember picking up Born to Run, and not necessarily loving Thunder Road or anything others, but Born to Run itself was just a perfect song. I love the dynamics. I love the change of the pace of the song, and then the 1 2 3, and then the
Jesus.
highways Jim. So yes, that was the song that, and I've shared this many times. When we went to the first show afterwards, Linda said, well, did you have a good time? And because he did a lot of songs from the Rising, and I said, Linda, if I had walked in, he had played Born to Run, and he had left the stage, I would have been, yep, I'm happy. I heard Born to Run live. I'm good. So, yes.
It's funny you say that, because it's been 5 years since I've seen the E Street Band tour. And you first asked what song don't I get, or what I hate, and I
Yeah,
picked There Goes My Miracle. If Bruce wanted to play 4 hours of There Goes My Miracle, sign me up. Okay.
exactly. Yes. Sign me up. Absolutely. Yes. All right. Song that changed your life.
Jesse, I got to tell you, you just said it yourself, that at first Thunder Road wasn't it. And when did Thunder Road get under our skin? Uh, when E Street Radio did the top whatever songs a couple
Yeah.
of Christmases ago, and it's like Born to Run was not number one, Thunder Road was number one. I'm like, oh my God, that's the same with me. More people are having that feeling than just me. Now, maybe because maybe Born to Run and Rosalita, they are just played, played, played. I don't know. I think there's something, as we've gotten older, and I've learned this by people who I've interviewed on my podcast, that as we get older, we appreciate different songs for different reasons.
Yeah.
And there's just something that's more aged maybe about Thunder Road than Born to Run. I don't know. I don't know. That's interesting. If I were to ask you, Jesse, how old are the characters in Born to Run and how old are the characters in Thunder Road? I think that they could be 10 years apart. I think they could be 18 and 28.
Yeah, I absolutely do think that. And I I remember like vaguely when there were Tim Kalishaw, who is a sports writer for the Dallas Morning News, and Babe Loffenberg, who at the time was the CBS affiliate anchor, and he still is the color for the Dallas Cowboys, radio broadcast. And Babe spent a long career as a backup quarterback, and so they were talking, and Tim Kalishaw said, "Born to Run is the greatest rock and roll song ever written," and Babe said, "I think Thunder Road might have something to say about that." Like if someone, like if and to put it to things like Joe Montana's the greatest quarterback of all times. Well, a guy named Tom Brady may have to have a little something to say about that. And they had a discussion about Thunder Road and Born to Run, and there was no doubt one of those songs in their mind was the greatest rock and roll song ever bit, but they debated on that. And so I kind of like, well, wow, I should listen to Thunder Road again. And it is one of those that as you I think every time you watch Casablanca, you find something new and you enjoy the film more. Same thing on like The Godfather, or even me. I love the John Ford Stagecoach. One of his first John Wayne westerns. But there are things about classic movies that every time you watch, you pick up something new. And I feel that I don't there isn't much left Thunder Road shares with me because of I seen it. And Betsy Hodges in her Song of Her Life episode said that she is a firm believer that when she goes to wherever the next life is, and for now let's call it heaven, and there's a supreme being, God, she says, I believe you can ask them anything you want. And my question is going to be, how many hours of my life did I spend listening to Thunder Road?
I love that. Well, look, you say that you feel like you exhausted the song. Me too, until the movie Blinded by the Light came out.
Yes.
And Thunder Road, that scene in the market was unbelievable. It brought joy because we had such a optimistic images with the music for 3 or 4 minutes, if you recall that scene. It was
I do love that scene. And I think one of the things that keeps giving me is asking the Mary question, because it's always an interesting question, but it never fails. Someone will bring up a theme that I've never thought about before, and a different version of the song and a different thought. And you're absolutely right. Are they 18? Are they 28? Are they 38?
Wow.
That they have,
or maybe they're 58 and their marriage is on fumes and they have to redouble down for it.
Yeah.
Or,
it's amazing. It is.
You're blowing my mind, Jesse.
I know. All right. Song that surprised you.
Well, I again rolled up, and there are 3 of them, but there is a clear winner on this one. Okay. Again, the 2016 River Tour. I was shocked at how amazing Point Blank is. I was shocked. And I said this to my friend Gary. He goes, I still don't like it. I go, are you kidding? I know that we've seen the River Tour many, many times in many cities right now, but this song is unbelievable, right? Powerful. Today I heard E Street Radio, I think, was playing Denver, the River Tour, and Jackson Cage came up. And that's a song I would never even stop. I would just fast forward past. It was an amazing version of it. I'm like, wow. Right. But the song that surprised me the most was Sitting in Western Stars. And the final song was Rhinestone Effing Cowboy. And I turned to my friend, I go, oh my God, we talk about Elton John and Kiki D. Well, Glenn Campbell, for crying out loud. What a surprise to see Bruce sing this song.
Yes.
What an ode to him after him passing away. I've met his daughter, who's a great banjo player. They do a great dueling banjos, by the way, Glenn Campbell and his daughter. Google it. It is
Well,
amazing.
I watched that documentary about him going through
Oh yeah,
Alzheimer.
I Am
And
Me, I think it's called.
yeah, and it's an amazing documentary, inspiring and sad all at one time. And yes, his daughter seems amazing. I mean, just
Yes,
what a versatile musician.
really terrific. Now, here's the clincher on this.
Yeah,
Glenn Campbell died of Alzheimer's dementia,
yeah,
and we know Bruce's mom is suffering
yeah,
from that. And while closing out Western Stars, the movie with Rhinestone Cowboy, may have been a salute to Glenn Campbell for the Western
yeah.
stars, I also can't help but think it was a coincidence to also honor him and the crippling disease that succumbed him.
Yeah, I think so. Well, good. Oh, I like that one a lot. All right. You mentioned guilty pleasure when we were talking. Don't go breaking my heart. But what is your Springsteen guilty
Yeah.
pleasure?
Oh, I have even guiltier ones. The
Okay.
DeFranco Family,
Okay.
It's a Heartbeat, whatever that song is.
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
All right. So these are some guilty pleasures. And I would think that at least the first two may be some other people's guilty pleasures. Bobby Jean is a guilty pleasure. Pretty Flamingo is a guilty pleasure.
Right.
I mentioned I Want to Marry You. That's kind of sappy to a lot of people. It's so literal. I want to marry you.
Hmm.
I'm a single guy. So, that song to me is like just waiting to, say that to somebody.
Yeah.
But I think the guiltiest pleasure of them all is Girls in Their Summer Clothes.
Oh, nice.
You like that?
Yes.
How about you?
So what's funny is song that surprised me was Girls in Their Summer Clothes. And because I've got this new album out, and all of a sudden it's a E Street Beach Boy song.
Oh, yeah.
It is, it's like, did Brian Wilson help
Oh,
write
yeah.
this and
Oh, and the
everything?
video is totally Beach Boys, right?
Yeah. And so that was a song that surprised me. The song that is a guilty pleasure you mentioned, I love Waiting on a Sunny Day. It brings me happiness. It brings me
All right.
joy. I don't mind that he brings the kid on stage. I think he wants to be a grandfather, and I think this is part of it. But
Oh, wow.
my
That's beautiful. I like that.
yeah,
It's a beautiful pleasure. It's not even a
yeah,
guilty pleasure for you. I think it's a
yeah,
beautiful pleasure.
and I will tell you the strongest memory I have is back when we used to go places. There is a pop culture convention called Dragon Con that is in Atlanta, and it is thousands and thousands of people, and they get there on Thursday and it goes the way to Monday. And to pick up your packet, um, the best you're going to do is an hour and a half, that you will stand in line for at least an hour and a half to pick up your packet. They move things as fast as they can, but there's just so many people. And I remember the first time I was going, I had my MP3 player. And at one point, you're standing in line and Waiting on a Sunny Day came on. And all of a sudden, the line started moving. So I'm like, and for
Oh,
those of you
wow.
watching this on YouTube, I'm bouncing along, moving the line, listening to Waiting on a Sunny Day. And it just was a perfect kind of marching to the song. So that's one of my favorite songs. And I get that people can't stand it, and I understand why, but it is on
Oh,
my
I don't even
pleasure.
understand why. Jesse, my cheeks are hurting right now. I'm smiling so much at the pleasure that this song brings you.
Oh, thank you. All right, song you wish you had seen live.
All right. Well, this is interesting. So right now, I'm going to surprise you a little bit.
Okay.
Power of Prayer, Ghosts. I'll see you in
Yes,
my dreams. It's
absolutely.
like, right? Jeez. I landed on If I Should Fall Behind, New York City 99 reunion tour, because it is
Mm,
such a famous song. Now, I went back and looked at the playlist of the show that I saw in the reunion tour in Minneapolis in November 99. And they played that the last couple of songs: Born to Run, Santa Claus, Thunder Road, If I Should Fall Behind, Land of Hope and Dreams. For the life of me, I don't remember much about this concert other than when Born to Run was playing, the house lights went on and I was standing and jumping on my seat for the entire song, and I thought the seat was going to break. I was
sure.
out of my mind. But I saw If I Should Fall Behind on the reunion tour. I just don't remember it. And when Nils Lofgren comes to the mic, and as Bruce has called him, the voice of a rebel choir boy,
Yes.
it puts the song over the top. So that's the song I wish I saw live. Though I did see it live, I just don't remember that I saw it
Well,
live.
and that's like I've seen Mary's Place once, and but I didn't really get it then, because I had not listened to The Rising over and over again, and now then it is on my list of things that I didn't appreciate how much I would have loved to hear that again. I absolutely agree. If I Should Fall Behind, to hear that, um, because it is Bruce Springsteen, the E Street Band. I've often wondered why he doesn't say, and now Niels is going to take one, because a lot of like Willie Nelson touring will say, and now then, my sister Bobby's going to take lead on one, or I'm going to take, and they'll take turns. And no, Bruce is the lead
Well,
vocalist.
Bruce is the
So
lead,
yeah,
and
he's the boss, and it's going to be.
well, look,
And
Bruce covers other songs, but he never really covers a Neil song or a Gary
no,
song or a Stevie
yeah,
song or a Patty song. I mean, why
yeah,
aren't we hearing Rose? I mean,
yeah,
right,
uh,
right.
and and
He's a
I
showman. He knows he's the conductor.
yes,
He's
he is.
right.
And um, and one of the things that I love in the modern Out on the Street is when he says, "Out on the street, Patty," and then Patty says, "Out on the street, out in the little street, Gary," and Gary says, "Out on the street," and he calls them out, so that having them have a chance to sing their own verse, because normally the only time we hear the E Street Band is during harmony.
Mhm.
You know, that is something special, and yeah, I absolutely would have adored to hear that again.
Now,
I've never
here's the
heard it.
thing: the
Yeah,
caveat to this, and there's a little asterisk because
yeah,
while I chose it, I really didn't choose it since I have seen that live.
right.
So, what I would have loved to have seen live, and I hear it on E Street Radio enough, is 4th of July, Asbury Park, Foxborough, Massachusetts, September 2016.
Yeah,
It, the heat of the night. It feels like the humidity is dripping. And my friend Ryan was there. It is a stunning version of this song. So I invite you to go find it at some point.
yeah.
For 4th of July to have that much impact on me after hearing it so much, but
Hmm.
this one version, and it might have been, I don't know if Foxborough may have been the last stop of the whole shebang.
Okay,
So maybe there was something extra there. I
okay.
don't know.
All right, and then our last question: what is your choice on great song to see live?
When the hands are up in the air with The Rising, it's really, I've gotten to appreciate it more. Land of Hope and Dreams is a song that just doesn't stop. But the great song to see live was the song that he ended his tour at Mohegan Sun Night 2, all by himself on the stage, and it was Dream Baby Dream.
Mm,
And there wasn't a dry eye in the house, and everyone was spent from back to back 4-hour nights at this really cozy 12,000 person arena.
mhm.
And capping off the show It's funny. That was the last show I saw. And then it took 18 months or something for them to tour, or 21 months. And I was at the first show in Pittsburgh. So I realized that at some point, like, oh my, when I was in Pittsburgh, I'm like, wow, I saw him the last time they were out. And it was like 21 months ago or something. That Dream Baby Dream, he left it all. There was nothing left in Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
You know, he was drained. We were all drained. We didn't even want another song. It's
Right.
like, enough. We can't take anymore. Emotionally, we cannot take any more music, Bruce. And I would bet that he felt the same way.
You know, and to my regular listeners, I apologize because I know you know what I'm about to share. Um, Dream Baby Dream is one of our family's songs. The story is that we were in the car driving to see my mom in Louisiana, and I mentioned, hey, Bruce has a new song out. And this was before High Hopes, but they had done the Dream Baby Dream video, right? And which I adore that video. I often say, if you want to see what it's like to see Bruce live, watch this video. And so we play it, and my lovely bride, Linda's like, well, that's dumb. That's just why is he doing this song? It's the same things over and over again. And my son's like, well, I don't know. Play it again, Dad. So we play it again. And Linda's like, well, okay, now play it again.
Oh.
And then Chris is like, okay, one more time. And then Linda's like, it's almost like a mantra. It's almost like a rosary, you know? And I said, yeah. So
it's a chant.
Yes.
It's a Tibetan chant.
Yes. And so that has been now one of our family songs.
Oh,
and
really?
Yes. And we've told the story, like, if we're on the back porch getting ready to watch the Cowboys play, we've got about a 20-minute buffer in the DVR. We don't want to be too behind. Let's put our phones up so we aren't spoiled by anything, but let's play Dream Baby Dream before we go in.
My God.
So
how about you? What's the great song for you, Jesse, to see live?
I will answer that, but I just need to share this, so the first 7 times I saw Bruce, I never saw Thunder Road. He did not do Thunder Road live.
Wow.
And then when he started performing, he sometimes during the High Hopes, sometimes he did Dream Baby Dream, sometimes he did Thunder Road. And I've never heard him do Dream Baby Dream. Every show I went to, he did Thunder Road. And I can't complain after 7 times never hearing it, but it's like just one time I would have liked Dream Baby Dream to sing.
Oh,
yeah.
It's something, Jesse, because as I talk about Dream Baby Dream ending Mohegan Sun, Bruce ended Rome 2016 with Thunder Road acoustic.
Yeah.
And again, there's a video that I posted on the website, my website, that one lyric. The episode was with a woman who talked about Thunder Road. And the last 10 seconds of the video, Jesse, are 3 young women crying.
Yeah.
And we all were.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, it leaves you raw. He's got to know that he's just destroying us, for crying out loud.
So I did a lot of thought on this. Okay, like, great song to see live. Land of Hope and Dreams could have been on there. Born to Run could have been on there. Thunder Road could have been on there. And like, okay, what am I going to do? And so I said, and I go back to the reunion tour and the live in New York City and the 10th Avenue Freeze Out, where, I mean, it's almost a concert in itself. That, you know, where they start, they have the long intro, you know, and where they keep going over and over again. And then, you know, he talks about going across the river and you need a band, and he introduces every member, and Patty sings a little bit of her song, and, you know, and then, you know, and then you go, the big man joined the band, and this joyous thing, that 10-15 minutes is a good summary of the the power and the magic of the E Street Band. So I said, and I always enjoy 10th Avenue Freeze Out. I love Rosie, but when they do 10th Avenue Freeze Out is another great song that I enjoy live.
That's a
Yeah,
great version.
yeah, absolutely.
Wow. I feel spent right now, like I've been to a Bruce
I know.
show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right, Ted, we got to get you out of here. If someone wants to find you, how can they?
Well, first, on all the podcast channels, please take a sample of that one lyric. You could go to thatonelyric.com. There's, I have a letter to you that I wrote to all the fans. There's some merchandise on there if you'd like. There's all of our archives of everything. But again, you get those on the podcast channels. And you can email me at ted@thatonelyric.com.
Yeah, and are you still running your special with are you the promotional with
Well, if you, the Brian Hyatt book, Bruce
yes.
Springsteen, the stories behind the songs.
Yes.
You know what? I figured, let me get a little incentive there for people to leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
That's
And if you
nice.
do, you're in and automatically entered into a raffle for the book or for some of our gear.
The last time you were on the podcast, you mentioned, this is not your first podcast, not your first rodeo. I went back and listened to your interview with Niels, and I have to tell you that was a beautiful interview.
Oh,
I
Jesse,
think
thank you.
he shared, you asked insightful questions, and he really shared a lot of himself. And so I really recommend you guys going to your um, tell them how they can find that one.
Sure. That's called the Tour podcast. But if you go to thatonelyric.com, there's a link on that one lyric for the tour. So
Yeah.
you can just go to that one for both podcasts. But
Yeah.
Jesse, thank you. Niels has given so many interviews. You just wonder if you ever get something fresh from a subject. But most of my interviews for the tour are about 30 minutes. Niels was almost an hour.
Yeah, it was, and he talked a lot about. He really shared a lot of himself, not just about music, but how he learned and working together. He
Jimi
talked,
Hendrix story is
yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah, and talking about finding his true love. And how he's like, I didn't work out my marriages at first, but I finally got a good one, and it was a really beautiful interview, and I just enjoyed it. So thank you for keying me up to that, and thank you for sharing it.
Well, thank you. And I need to give you a shout out because your interview most recently with Maureen was terrific. I listened
Thank
to
you.
that and just couldn't turn it off, to tell you the truth.
Well, that is good to hear. All right, listeners, I hope you've enjoyed Ted Canova Week. It has been great. Or the Jesse Jackson sandwich, right? I am sure. Please continue to go and follow um, Ted's podcast, That One Lyric. It is just, it is so beautiful to hear Springsteen fans. And please reach out to him and join him and share your lyrics. And for me, and I appreciate your support. Remember to wash your hands, remember to social distance, and remember to wear a mask. And we'll get through this together. For now, thank you, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye. Thank you to my patrons who help support the show. It is greatly appreciated. I want to thank Betsy Hodges, Levi Petrie, Elizabeth Bronson, Stephen Malio, Holly Mack, Steve Rogers, Dale Hosick, Terry Smith, Anna Lynn, Chris Bloom, and my first patron, Mary Thomas. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support you give me.
You just heard the fun talking, hard rocking, music loving, album ranking, fan thinking, joy spreading, lyric reading, story sharing podcast that is the one, the only Set Listing Bruce. Set Listing Bruce is part of the Southgate Media podcast group. The theme for Set Listing Bruce was written by David Rosen, used by permission.